Good morning. Call to order the July 28th, 2020 meeting of the Saline County Board of Commissioners. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Shadwick?
Here.
Commissioner Sparks?
Here.
Commissioner Vidrickson?
Here.
Commissioner Weiss?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here.
I ask you please stand and join me in a flag salute followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We now move to the citizens input portion of our meeting, where citizens may speak on county government, usually limited to 3 minutes, and pertaining to items that are not on today's agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to address the commission? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for regular business. First thing on here is for the consent agenda to be presented. The consent agenda consists of approval of prior minutes of June 16th, 23rd, the 30th, and July the 2nd. Approval of tax roll adjustments, approval of accounts payable and payroll, approval of contracts, approval of county license, approval of public forum agenda as presented. Are there any commissioners who wish to delete anything from this or pull it or add? Hearing none, no objection. The consent agenda will stand as approved, as written. We will move to action items, which is item number 1.
RFA 191-20, Resolution 20-2300, intent to issue educational facilities revenue bonds for Kansas Wesleyan University, with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. We have some guests in the audience this morning from Kansas Wesleyan University and UMB Bank, and they are here because they would like to ask your Commission to declare an intent to issue educational facilities revenue bonds for the university. This is something that the county has done once before. In 2012, we issued bonds for the university. They have paid off a portion of those bonds. They would like to refund the remainder of the outstanding bonds to take advantage of lower interest rates, and also add a little bit of new money to the bond issuance to pay for some improvements to their energy efficiency on campus. If your commission agrees to the issuance of those bonds by adopting the attached resolution, the parties would be back before the commission on August 25th, at which time we would have a required public hearing and execute the various agreements required for the arrangement that would involve the county, the university, and the bank. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and as I said, we have guests who know way more about this than I do. So,
All right, is there any questions or comments from commissioners?
Nope. Nope.
Seeing none, we will take public comment at this time, if anybody wishes to speak about the resolution. It's my understanding that there is no obligation on the part of the county as far as a financial obligation in the long run.
that is correct. The agreement between the county and the university would provide that they would make what's essentially termed a rent payment that is in an amount equal to the amount of the bonds.
And as it states here, the city of Saline, the reason they're not involved is they have more bonds outstanding right now, and it would affect their rating if they go that way. Saline County has no bonds at this time, if I'm not mistaken. If we were to wait a year and we'd have a jail project going, it might be a different situation. So timing looks to be good as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like to help them out.
Mr. Chair, could we have our guest address the commission from Kansas Wesleyan?
Go ahead.
Good morning. Matt Thompson, President of Kansas Wesleyan. I thank you for the opportunity to present to you to ask for your endorsement of this request. Just to give a little bit of context about Kansas Wesleyan, as you know, we've been in the community almost 135 years. We are proud of our connection with this community and all that it means for us and for our students. About 25% of our 12,000 alumni live in Saline County, so we believe we're a big part of the impact of what happens to this community. Our annual economic impact's about $40 million. This year we expect to have more than 700 students, 125 faculty and staff who will be joining us when we start school in just about a week and a half. August 10th will be our first day of school. In addition, our students volunteer more than 10,000 hours of community service every year for this community, and we're really proud of that. And over the last about 5 years, we've done about $20 million in capital improvements on campus. And so we're really proud of the investment we're making. As we look at this project, it is some refinancing of a little bit of previous bond, but it's the majority of the money is going to this energy solutions project that will allow us to upgrade all of our HVAC systems to get be more energy efficient, replace lights and things like that, which will allow for cost savings for the institution, which is how we're actually going to pay for the bond payment. So there's already built-in savings that allow us to do that. So we're feeling very good about where we're headed and what we're doing. It's one of the last big maintenance projects that we have left to do on at the institution, and so we really appreciate your support to do this. Happy to answer any questions you might have. If it's really technical about the bond, the bank folks are here to do that.
I really don't have any questions, but I do have a couple of comments. Being a lifelong Salina resident in Saline County, it's amazing to me the number of students who come from out of county and out of state that come to Wesleyan and stay in Salina. I mean, there's hundreds, literally hundreds or even thousands that have done that, and I can remember it as long as even before when I was in high school. You know, the ones that would come here to play football or basketball, or even just to come to be a student, and that have remained in the Salina community and been a teacher or a part of the business community. So Kansas Wesleyan is very important, very dear to my heart. My dad and my uncle both attended and graduated from Kansas Wesleyan, and we terrorized the campus when I was growing up. We lived about 2 blocks away, so we were over there quite a bit. So we appreciate the efforts that Kansas Wesleyan has, that your faculty and staff put forth, and contributions to the community. So, anyone else?
Doctor, on a separate note, not related to this, but Saline County received $11 million for the CARES Act for COVID-related expenses. Will the school apply for some of those?
We will be.
Very good.
That's right. Thank you.
Seems like I'm sure that you've experienced some expense there. So
we have, but I was going to come up before we got to this portion, but I do want to say working with Phil and Jason have been tremendous, been great partners for us as we've been thinking through the myriad of obstacles and changes and things to consider, and they've just been phenomenal partners. So you have great staff here, so I just wanted to make sure you knew that as well.
Well, good luck on that. So thanks.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak about the RFA before us? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the Commission for action.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt Resolution 20-2300 as presented by staff.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 191-20, Resolution 20-2300, intent to issue educational facilities revenue bonds for Kansas Wesleyan University. Is there any further discussion? If not, all of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move to item number 2.
RFA 192-20, bid approval for 2020 RCB Construction. Justin Mader, County Engineer.
Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if this one's on. Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. So I'm here to discuss and take action on a Saline County Road and Bridge Department request to award the bid for 2020 RCB construction projects. Sealed bids were opened on July 22nd, 2020 at 11 a.m. and we received 4 bids. Reese Construction was a low bid for 4 locations, and those project locations are on Niles Road, Minner Road, Cloud Street, and Cunningham Road. And L&M Construction was a low bid on for the project on Woodward Road. And you should have a 11 by 17 bid tab list, for the details of those costs. Some alternatives for action would be to, number one, would be to accept the low bids from Reese Construction and L&M Construction. 2 would be to reject the low bids and accept other bids. And then your third option would be to reject the bids. Staff recommends to accept the unit prices submitted by Reese Construction for the projects located on Niles Road, Project 175385, on Minner Road, Project 19-5385, Cloud Street, number 195386, and Cunningham Road, project number 195387, for the amount of estimated work to equal $495,937.90. Staff recommends to accept the unit prices submitted by L&M Construction for the project located on Woodward Road, project 195389, for the amount of estimated work to equal $76,590. All projects have a combined cost of estimated work to equal $572,527.90, and funds for these projects will be taken out of the 125 Special Bridge Construction account.
Okay, pretty detailed here. I've noted that the bids are pretty competitive.
Yes.
I think all of them came in slightly under engineers' estimates, and there's at least 2, if not 3, on every single bridge that was really close bidding. So it looks like they're fairly hungry right now. So
Yeah. This is more bidders than we've had in the recent past, and so I was happy to see that.
and not only that, but the quality of the people that are bidding it. Other questions or comments from commissioners?
Are these bids consistent with past history, or?
Yes. Yeah. The unit prices are pretty similar to what they were last year, last year's projects.
What, Justin, did I miss it? What about start and stop dates and?
So the earliest they can start would be the date of the signed contract. And then I put a completion date, I believe it was June of 2021. And so what that does is it'll allow them to work through the winter, because a lot of this type of work can be done in the winter months.
Did you also put a clause in there that, and in other words, if it's June of 2021, I mean, they can't close the road in November and not start, for 90 days?
Yeah, I have all that on all my projects where, once they start construction, they have, for on these, I believe it's 45 working days to get the project done. And that just doesn't allow, that creates them to, once they start on a project, they can't pull off, and go to another project and then come back 3 months later. They've got to stay there and get the job done.
All right, very good. Other comments or questions from commissioners?
Good job.
If not, I will ask for public comment. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mr. Chairman, I move we award the 2020 RCB construction projects to the lowest bidder as submitted by staff.
Second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 192-20 bid approval for 2020 RCB construction. Further discussion? All of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. We'll move to item number 3.
RFA 193-20, execution of lease for Expo Center. Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Good morning, Phil.
Good morning again, Commissioners. This is a project that we have been working on for quite some time, and your commission and most of the public is aware of the history, so I won't belabor it. But I will say that we are very happy today to be presenting to the Commission a lease with the City of Salina for a portion of Kenwood Park for the continued operation of the Saline County Livestock and Expo Center for a 30-year term beginning on January 1st of 2021. And the lease was unanimously approved by the Salina City Commission last evening and has been reviewed by County Councilor. Staff does recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How did we get this done so fast? I mean, it's only been 3.5 years. well, I'm making a funny light of a situation that hasn't been funny. It's been quite a process for us to get through this. I know that, and I'm not going to speak for the other commissioners, but I'm sure they feel the same way. We're so happy to get this behind us, not only for our own selves, but for the community, for the people that use the Expo Center, and the people that work there. We know now that we're on solid footing for another 30 years or so. So I'm really happy to get this done, happy to get it done for the public, like I said. So, other comments from commissioners?
I too am glad to check this one off of my to-do list. One question I have, 6.5, dispute resolution, which was kind of a stumbling block. Reading through it, it looks like the two bodies will just meet and come to an agreement. There's no arbitrator involved there? Or?
That's correct. County Councilor had steered us away from binding arbitration as a dispute resolution methodology. So the attempt would be that folks would cooperate. For some of the processes, there is a appointment of an outside person, and then for others, if we fail to reach agreement, we'll see folks in court, I suppose. So
I think once you get past the legal whereases and wherefores and so on and so forth, there just has to be a level of trust between the city and the county. They have to trust us that we're going to get the work done to the satisfaction of what the contract says, and that we're going to do it in good faith. And I mean, we're not going to paint a blue building and a red building and things like that, and they have to trust us in that regard. And we've got to do the quality work. We're not going to spend millions of dollars over there without it being quality work. We're not just going to throw money up in the wind and let it blow away. So there has to be an element of trust here. And there's some big things coming on the horizons again next year. I know Equifest is coming back to town again, and there are a ton of shows I think that Rick has got booked. Hopefully the Corona thing will be past us by that time, and we can move forward with it. So, other comments from commissioners? If not, I'm going to be very happy to take a motion to approve this agreement.
I would just like to say also, I'd like to thank the city commissioners for passing this and getting it accomplished. So, along with the rest of us here. So, anyway, it takes both sides there to get this done. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve by signature the Saline County Expo Center lease agreement with the City of Salina for a 30-year term as presented.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 193-20, execution of lease for Expo Center. Are there any further comments, questions from commissioners? If not, all of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you. Hallelujah is right. Item number 4.
Review of Section 6, Resolution 20-2297, the wearing of mask in public, with Jason Tiller, Health Department Director.
Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, gentlemen. All right, so start off with the situational update. Nationally, and these are the numbers as of noon yesterday, nationally there are 4,259,667 confirmed cases since the beginning of this, with 147,103 deaths. I did notice this morning that number of deaths was almost up 1,000 overnight nationally. At the state level, as it was reported yesterday, Kansas now is up to 26,172 positive cases that have been reported since the beginning of the COVID outbreak in Kansas. And that was an increase of about 1,000 cases in Kansas over the weekend. They also had 9 additional deaths in Kansas, which brings it up to 335. I didn't bring my glasses with me this morning. And then looking at Saline County, as of yesterday afternoon, we've had 327 total cases. 203 of those have recovered, which is some good news. 120 that are currently active. We did have an additional death over the weekend. That link there for the dashboard, and I don't think I can I click on it with this? Or just click on the dashboard link real quick. If you haven't checked out the dashboard, Philip's going to bring it up real quick. But this is on the Saline County website as well. And this information is updated 3 times a week on here, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We also have information that relates to some of the statistics along tabs on the bottom, such as date of report, division of gender amongst the cases, age and status. So, and we continually work on updating these things, adding new information, trying to make it more useful to the community. Race and ethnicity on the next tab. You can see kind of the breakdown there, and then definitions. And so as new things come along, questions that are information that is asked of us, we continually try to update that for public viewing. If you can go back to the slides now, please. So right now our case rates in the county are 5.7 positive cases per 1,000 residents, as compared with the state of Kansas, which is 8.98 per 1,000. So we're doing better than the state right now, which is good. We hope to keep it that way. The hospital is averaging about 5 on their daily census of COVID patients. And that's not just from Saline County, but that's from the region, since they are a regional hospital. A little bit of additional info from KDHE for Saline County. We have had a little over 3,000 negative tests. There have been about 3,300 people tested in the county. And right now we have a 9.3 positive rate, which means that when you compare positive cases to the negative cases, it comes out to that rate. And considering about the end of May, we were down to almost a 2.93% positive rate. Over time, we've had this steady growth, and then in the last 7 days, it's kind of started to taper off. It's been 3 weeks now since the mask mandate went into effect for the county, well, for the city and the county, both really. And it looks like, at least anecdotally, that we're starting to see some impact of that. We were going with double-digit case numbers on days, and now the last several days have been single-digit cases. I don't want to call anything at this point. I don't want to make any predictions because we've seen these kind of lulls before, and then it kind of starts to ramp back up. So, but that's just what the trend for this past month that it showed. I did just want to show you this real quick. So the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation from the University of Washington is one of the modeling sites for COVID that has been used quite frequently by multiple organizations across the states. This particular chart, they don't have it down to county level data, so they just have it down to state level. But what this one shows is case rates, but then when you get over here to the right a little bit, you can see the green is case rates modeled with mask mandates in place, and you can see that kind of precipitous drop there in case rates throughout the next several months. The line above it is the with all mandates released, so that case rates are a little bit higher. And so recommendations right now, basically my recommendation is if we want to keep people working and be able to get kids back in school here in the next month or so, we need to continue the mask order. We need to, and those simple measures are showing that they work. Mask wearing, hand washing, social distancing, and really staying home when sick are showing effects, good effects, and good outcomes. So that's all I have.
Phil, can you go back to one slide I'd like to see again, if you can get that back up there? I wanted to look briefly at the ages that it went by us pretty quickly, that were on the, was that on the dashboard?
On the dashboard, right. Yeah, so on ages, it's interesting that the majority of our cases are in that 20 to 29 and 30 to 39 age group. As it was reported from KDHE yesterday, the average age now for COVID cases is 39. They're seeing it show up more and more in younger folks. We have seen some increase even in the 10 to 19 range here in the county.
I'm just going to guess, but if you take those three 20 to 49 categories, that looks like it's at least about 60% of the cases, if not even a little bit more.
That's probably a pretty good guess. I'd have to add up the numbers.
That's just kind of what I wanted to see. I mean, I remembered the one age group being way up there, but and it's disheartening to see the 0 to 9 for sure, and even the 10. It's disheartening to see it all. So, at any rate, we appreciate your hard work, and I, for one, am going to be in favor of extending the mask. I mean, we're 3 weeks past it now, and now we're starting to see the fruits of that. I think that are coming to fruition. That you know, that time period is, and it goes back to June the 19th, really, when we came out of this. I think it was June the 19th, and a couple of weeks later, then you start seeing this elevation. So,
Mr. Chairman, since I put it in my motion to do this today, I would like everybody to know it's not my intention to overturn this at all. I'm not so sure we even need a motion.
And I would agree. I totally agree with you, Monty.
I asked for this as a review, and I think that was very helpful for what he did, and I want to continue to do that. I know that on our website, the emails coming out are very helpful, but I also think it's important for the public to see this, that's watching on TV, that we are monitoring this. So, to my fellow commissioners, I'm not even going to make a motion to extend it, because I don't think we have to. I think it's in place, and all I asked for in my motion was a review.
And I think the motion would come forth at some point in time when we want to take the mask off.
Right.
I mean, it's an inconvenience. It's a minor inconvenience as far as I'm concerned, because I don't have to wear it all the time. I can get outdoors. I can get away from things. I can go home. Just sit here and wear it today, it's an inconvenience. But it's a small inconvenience when you look at the health aspects that we're trying to save. So that's my comments. And anyone else wish to chime in?
I would just like to say something, Mr. Chair, is that here 2 weeks ago, I happened to go out to the ball diamonds at a baseball tournament out here. And I just wanted to say that I was amazed that right there when you pull into the complex that it said mask required. And I bet there was not 5% of the people. I never seen one person in the stands with a mask on. I never seen a ball team that had a mask on. I didn't see anybody walking around with a mask on. I just wanted to say that it still comes back to, I think that you can, it's here, but if you're not going to abide and do it, it's kind of, there it is. But I just wanted to bring that up. It just amazed me that there was nobody, and I've been into some certain, businesses that people are still not, employees and people are not. But anyway, it is, this is very, I think I'm for this staying on, because it is actually, it's got to be helping. Yep.
Well, I see, and to respond to your comments a little bit, Roger, those people that I see without them, I don't go down the aisle that they're in, or if I think a business isn't trying to monitor it at all, I don't go to that business. I mean, it's a individual personal choice.
Yes, it is.
And you've got to take care of yourself. And so, that having been said, did anyone else wish to comment? But it sounds like we've got a consensus here of at least 3 anyway already that we're not going to do anything about it today. That's for sure.
Mr. Chair, are you going to accept public comments? I've got some constituents.
We can.
Constituents here that are business owners, and if you'd like to speak, you have an opportunity.
I see none. So.
I will mention, and I appreciate Commissioner Shadwick's remark. I know that he was the one that wanted this to be reviewed, and I think that carries a lot of merit. But also, I have noticed a lot more compliance when I'm out and about in the stores. I'm seeing a lot more masks out there. I appreciate the public for embracing the need.
You're not getting any sound.
Appreciate the need of wearing a mask for their safety and for mine, so I think it is working.
Jason, the governor came out yesterday talking about the possibility of moving back to Phase 2. Can you remind us what Phase 2 was? I mean,
I believe it was things like bars and nightclubs. A lot of personal service stuff, I believe, was supposed to be closed. Mass gathering limit, I think of 15, it was either 10 or 15.
15.
But again, until she takes that action and we know whether it's a recommendation or an executive order, is really hard to know,
how to react.
And even if it does come out as an executive order, as we've seen, until we have that executive order in hand to really know what those things say, it's really hard to react to. So, we right now, like I said, I think our goal is to keep people working, keep it safe, and get it where kids can go back to school. And I think this is one of the less invasive ways to be able to do that.
One last thing, and that is that we've seen declining numbers here in Saline County for the last 10 days or so, but it's no time to let our guard down.
Correct.
They can come back pretty fast. So.
Correct.
All right, we'll move on then to informational items. Item number 1.
Bavaria Railroad Crossing discussion with Jason Mader, County Engineer.
Good morning again, Justin.
Good morning. Okay, this informational briefing is to discuss a road crossing on the Union Pacific Railroad at Bavaria. The Kansas Department of Transportation contacted Saline County about upgrading 2 county roadway crossings on the Union Pacific Railroad tracks. These 2 projects are located on Muir Road, south of K-140, and at Bavaria, northeast of the grain elevator. Contracts between Saline County, KDOT, and the UP Railroad Company were approved and signed by the County Commissioners on March 20th, 2020. During a pre-construction call with KDOT and the Union Pacific Railroad's contractor, the idea of closing the Bavaria crossing instead of upgrading the crossing was introduced by the railroad. In order to determine if closing the crossing is a viable option, my office began researching property ownership and maintenance responsibilities. The attached aerial photography shows that you should all have. Shows the results of our research. Indicated by the purple hatch is what is owned by the Union Pacific Railroad, which accounts for about 200 feet on each side of the railroad track, and the area of Midland Road north of Magnolia Road. Saline County Road and Bridge Department has maintained Midland Road, which is I show a green line on Midland Road, which denotes our maintenance. However, the road north at the north end of Midland Road and at the residential entrance to the railroad crossing has never been maintained by Saline County. Even though Saline County has not maintained this section of road, the residents of Bavaria use it as a public road and a public crossing. Furthermore, KDOT and the UP Railroad has this crossing classified as a public crossing. It is the Road and Bridge Department's recommendation to proceed as follows. That we obtain a maintenance agreement with the Union Pacific Railroad Company and continue to maintain Midland Road from Magnolia up to the residential entrance. We will install a sign on the north end of Midland Road which reads Saline County Maintenance Ends, as well as install a dead end sign at the south end of Midland Road. We will request or suggest to KDOT and the railroad to reclassify the crossing as a private crossing to be maintained by the owners of the grain elevator. Then the decision to close or upgrade that crossing is at the railroad and the owners of the elevator. I have met with, or I've talked with the owners of the grain elevator to try to keep them informed on what's going on, and a lot of the confusion, both on, KDOT side, the railroad side, the county side, and really a lot of the public on, that railroad crossing and the road leading up to it from the south. So I guess I'm here to kind of let you guys know what's going on, answer any questions. I do think we do have an individual that is part owner of the grain elevator. I invited them here just to, if they have any comments or questions.
Well, before we go that road, I want to just say that, the whole city of Bavaria would be affected by this if they closed that crossing.
Yeah, they would all have to use the crossing on Griesler Road.
On what road?
On Griesler, there's a crossing on that's southwest of the grain elevator. So this is just the
Oh,
crossing.
okay, I see there.
Yeah, so
I
there's
was thinking
two crossings there.
that was the only entrance into
no.
Bavaria. Okay, I'll keep my comments back, I'll back those up a little bit then.
Sure.
Is there someone here who wishes to address us then? Did you say the owner?
Well, I just, if they wanted to, I just wanted to make sure that they were kept in the
Sure.
loop and informed of what's going on.
Sure. Good morning, and your name, sir?
I'm Joe Kerr. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to be
Sure.
here, and commissioners. It's good to be back here. Yeah, I am one of the owners of Bavaria Elevator, as well as my brother, Mel, and nephew Nathan, and son Josh. We kind of all own that together in that. So be happy to answer any questions, but just a couple points for us anyway. That east crossing is kind of one of the more usual ones that we use pulling in and out of the elevator. It's for convenience that is kind of an important one for us to use. We're put in a little bit of a strange spot because actually we lease the property that our facility's on, but we do not lease, and it's not in our lease, the road. So we've got kind of the scale area, then there's a road that actually is owned by the railroad. It's all owned by the railroad, but we actually don't lease that kind of drives in front. And then where our storage is also. So anyway, so that crossing really isn't ours. The road in between really isn't ours. But I guess we're here to say it is an important component of ours. And yeah, if it's closed, we will have to figure out how to get by without that crossing. But a few things might just say, and I think it was already mentioned, and I appreciate getting right up to speed what was happening here. But definitely a lot of the Bavaria community uses that crossing. To the point even the school bus uses that crossing. So obviously there'd have to be some changes and stuff. And from our vantage point, we want to just kind of be good neighbors to the community. And so we're, would be maybe a little concerned. They'd feel like we closed the crossing or something if it's taken out. And we, so in a way, maybe we're here kind of representing the community too, that it gets used quite a bit and there has been use of it. But having said that, I do understand it's the railroad's property. So how you kind of come to an understanding on that, I guess, is.
Well, if you were to go back and say that that you would maintain that crossing, that's a fairly expensive undertaking, I would think, if you're going to maintain a railroad crossing. And to me, you wouldn't be turning your back on the community. You're just saying, we can't afford to finance, the maintenance and care of that crossing. Now, the crossing to the east, does it have the crossing guards and flashing lights?
Yes, it does.
The west exit.
Or, I'm sorry, yes, the
Yeah,
west
the west
exit
exit
does.
has the light and guard.
But the east exit
Does not.
Does not, and that's the one that would remain open, am I correct?
No.
No, it's the other way around.
It's the other way.
Yes, so.
Okay, I got mixed up here a
Yeah,
little
so
bit.
the west exit is what we call an active crossing, and that's got the signals and the railroad arms that drop down when a railroad's crossing. The east crossing is a passive crossing, and it's just controlled by signs. You know, that it's and they see a yield sign or a stop sign right there. And that's it. And so this project that KDOT and the railroad approached Saline County about is to convert that east crossing to an active crossing with signs and the arms that drop down. Or I'm sorry, with signals and the arms that drop down.
Okay, I was under the impression it was the other way around, so.
So one of our concerns on that process of maintaining it and whatever is, where we don't even lease it, we want to make sure that we don't end up liable for things that could happen because of that crossing as a situation. So we would need to try to take safeguards, however that would be, to make sure that we're not at that point. So.
I guess my next question would be to you, Justin. What do you determine should be the county's role in this procedure?
So I met with Phil and the county councilor, and we talked about this and the different options that we have. And what we determined is that we should continue doing what we're doing, and that's just maintaining Midland Road only. So there's never been public money spent on that section that leads over to the railroad crossing. We've talked with the current rural patrolman, and he said that he has never maintained that section of road. And then we talked to the gentleman that maintained it for 20, 30 years before, the rural patrolman in that area. And he stated that he's never maintained that area. So I'm assuming it was the previous owners of the grain elevator, which I think was MKC, who must have maintained that. And there was just a perception, they maintained it well enough that there was a perception that it was a public road. To the point where KDOT and the railroad thought it was a public road. And really what was kind of interesting is Google Earth, I dropped down to Street View, and you could drive down through there like it was a public road. So that's kind of what their perception was, but in reality, it was not. And so my recommendation is to continue maintaining what we've been maintaining. Place a sign at the end of Midland Road, that states county maintenance ends. And the blade operator would turn around there. And then it's really up to the owners of the grain elevator, if they chose to put up a gate there to not allow the public to drive through on there. I mean, it's in some gray area. I don't know if you would need the railroad's permission to do that because it's not in your lease. I wouldn't think that they would have a problem with that. And so it's whether that crossing remains open to where the public can use it physically, to me would be up to the owners of the grain elevator.
Ultimately, can the railroad close the crossing without any resistance from the county or the citizens, or how does that procedure work?
I think if we define that as a public crossing, then we're out. I mean, any decisions with that crossing is not up to us. And I don't know. I couldn't really answer that as far as how much say the owners of the grain elevator, whoever the property is, to the other side of the tracks. I would assume that they would have say, but I would also assume that there would be a separate agreement drawn up by the railroad, that spells out a lot of that, a lot of those issues.
So from what I'm hearing or getting out of this is it's kind of a wait and see game.
Well, what I'm asking, I guess I'm here to inform you, to kind of let you know what's going on. But just to get your input and a consensus, if you have any objections for the county putting up a county maintenance ends sign and continue maintaining Midland Road. And then the next step, if that's okay with everyone, then the next step would be to talk to the railroad and let them know what our position, this is what we're going to do, and that's not a public crossing.
How does the agreement
Pull your microphone
that we
down,
signed- How does the agreement we signed on March 20th with the railroad impact this?
I would say the agreement would have to be voided. I'm not sure that process is, but, it's the agreement on something that we really don't have. I want to make sure that I'm not going to say something that's going to put me in trouble, but we really don't have the ability to, or shouldn't have the ability to sign that type of agreement because we don't have an easement, a road easement, through that crossing.
I don't want to get the county into a situation where we're potentially that we're liable for any accidents or anything that might come down the pike there. I don't want to get into that for certain, and I certainly don't want to get into a financial situation that if we, that we're spending money to maintain the crossing. I mean, I want the people of Bavaria to have the flexibility of what they want to do and leaving the elevator or whatever, but I guess I should have asked, Joe, your elevator, is it simply for your private use? Or are you taking grain in from other people, or is it just for your private use?
It's just for our private use. It's not a public elevator, so it's just our family farm elevator that we use. It had been, Midland Co-op would have been more of a commercial type when they had it, but at this point, it's not. So.
Well, my recommendation is that we just continue to monitor it and do anything we can, or whatever we need to do to keep the county out of a liability situation and a cost situation, and go from there.
Okay.
I mean, a lot others.
I concur.
Yep. All right.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, and thank you for coming too, Joe. Appreciate it. Item number 2.
Human Resources update with Marilyn Leamer, Human Resources Director.
Good morning, Marilyn.
Good morning, Commissioners. The time frame for this update is mid-May to mid-July. During this time, we've got 15 new hires. We have 9 individuals that either transferred or promoted to a different position, 6 that are no longer employed. During this time, staff has been meeting with our insurance consultants. There was a marketing process that occurred for some competitive quotes to include a qualified high-deductible health plan with a health savings account. There was an option to change to another third-party administrator to process our claims, and then there was also an option for joining a captive funding mechanism. With the switch to another TPA and the captive funding mechanism, we do lose all flexibility on making the plan how we like. We may strongly recommend next year adopting a qualified high-deductible health plan where that would be our base plan for employees, and then if somebody wanted to maintain the richer plan that we have right now, they could buy up to that. Our recommendation right now is to remain with UMR as our third-party administrator and not have any plan design changes. That would actually result in a 4.8% increase. However, we are recommending changing to the UHC Choice Plus network. Currently, we use the First Health network, and by doing that, it would result in some deeper discounts, and it would make that increase go to 0.5%. The network change is going to have just some disruption to it. There are some providers that will move out of network. There are some providers that will move into network as well. But we can adopt some provisions that would allow us to make exceptions for certain services, such as chiropractic services or vision services. Those were the bulk of the disruption that we were seeing. We also would have available what they call a secondary wrap network. So if there was a provider that was out of network that an employee utilized, it would go through the secondary network to see if a discount can be negotiated. We do recommend that we do change to that new network as we go through the renewal process. Our insurance consultants also did some stop-loss marketing. As I wrote this, it was still pending. We have received some responses back. Currently, we use HCC as our stop-loss carrier, and we actually have a very good renewal on the stop-loss coverage, which is a reduction of 9.78%. However, as a part of that marketing, there was another competitive company called Cementra that resulted in a 21.34% increase. We did ask CBIZ, our insurance consultants, to go back to HCC to see if they could match that Cementra quote, and I haven't quite heard back from them yet, so we hope to hear back. If they cannot match that, our recommendation would be to change to Cementra for the stop-loss coverage. And then as we work through all this, there will be some renewal documents that I'll be presenting as those come in. We're also working with the consultants on a possible premium holiday. That happens when we have some good claim years and we've got some reserve built up in our trust fund for our health plan. We did offer one last December, and then we do review the claims utilization to see if we can offer a second one. So as of right now, it is looking very positive that we can do another premium holiday in September, and that would be the last month of our plan year. We're also looking at to see if we can do one in December, which would be the first one of our next plan year. So we've been very good on our claims utilization with our plan at this point. Our pharmacy benefit manager will add just a prior authorization piece for specialty injectable drugs that are given at the medical facility. There's just a very small amount of utilization that happens with this particular service. This does just protect our plan and ensures that the drugs are being administered for the correct diagnosis. Moving forward, plans, we do have some policies that were reviewed at the last executive staff meeting, talking about final paychecks and direct deposit rather than receiving a paper check, teleworking, reportable infectious disease outbreaks, and potential violent situations. So I hope to bring those to you possibly next week or the week after. We'll work on filling vacant positions. We've got corrections officer, intermittent part-time civil process server, intensive supervision officer has been filled as of yesterday. Truck driver or truck driver trainee, we did do interviews yesterday, and we are looking at the applications to hopefully make a selection this week. Assistant attorney, booking officer, transport officer, property technician in the appraiser's office, and then we also assist the building authority with their vacancies, so they have a custodian vacancy that we're working on trying to fill as well. So we'll continue to work through the insurance renewal. Open enrollment meetings typically happen in September due to the COVID crisis. So we are not going to do on-site meetings. We're going to do some virtual meetings. Typically have about 5 meetings each year through different locations within the county for employees to attend. We're going to reduce that back to 3 virtual meetings, and they will be recorded so that if an employee can't sit down and watch that virtual meeting at that time, they can watch it later. We also have discussed at the executive staff meeting our annual in-service training day, which we do on Columbus Day each year. We have a very high recommendation to not do that on site and do a virtual one as well. The recommendation is to have some training that everybody could sit through for part of the day, maybe have some lunch delivered in, and then for the specific departments to fill the rest of the day, either with some department-specific training. They could be doing some catch-up on work, maybe purging some files, so they can still have their offices closed to get a little bit of work done. We're also exploring some electronic onboarding solutions. There's a couple demos that I have sat through on that. That is for onboarding new employees. And it would give a mechanism for employees to complete a lot of forms electronically prior to being on site here. August 11th is our next blood drive. As far as budget, the health plan is running favorable at about 86% of expenses to funding ratio, the dental plan at 84%. We have not had any real high claims that have hit our stop-loss deductible yet. And the HR budget is at about 47% used, which is historical for this time of year. Generally, towards the end of the year, we'll get a little bit of an uptick with the in-service expenses and some employee recognition expenses. That's all I have.
Thank you, Marilyn. One thing that jumps out at me a little bit is the vacancies that we have for positions. They're kind of all over the board. There are a lot of opportunities for people for attorneys and booking officers and drivers and so on and so forth. So Saline County is hiring. If anybody's watching, they need a job. Why? We have excellent benefits and competitive pay. So, any other comments from commissioners? All right. Well, thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move to item number 3.
Department of Senior Services update with Rosie Walter, Department of Senior Services Director.
Good morning, Rosie.
Good morning, Commissioners. All of the remodeling is done right now. We still have a few little things that we're working on, but for the most part, the kitchen's done, the bathrooms are done, the terrazzo floor has been redone. We have had a few glitches with every project I've realized you do with the kitchen and the bathrooms, but we had a leak up on the roof, and then the pipe ended up crumbling that drains the roof. So it was overfilling and pouring into the ballroom upstairs. So they replaced it with this pipe that went down the inside of the building, and then it still, next rain, flooded the ballroom again. So then we had to have the plumber come back, and then he had to get rid of the clog that was between the building and the sewer. So keep your fingers crossed. No more leaks, but we are repainting the ballroom now. They had quite a bit of damage up on the ceiling, so they've scraped it and they're repainting it right now. We went ahead and we did the parking lot too, had it restriped. Parking lot, that's something that should be on our radar probably to replace the next couple of years. We've had it patched, but yeah, it's one big patch right now. But we did have it striped so that you can actually see where you're supposed to park at. Okay, on our meal populations, right now, if you look at it from last year to this year at this time, we have a 21% increase in delivered meals between Meals on Wheels full pay and then the subsidized meals. So 223 is our average that we deliver Monday through Friday. That's 39 more than last year, or 184 last year, and we're at 223, so 21% increase. As you see, I mean, March, April, May, and June, we have no daily sales or no in the dining room sales, so that has started now. June was our first month. We had a 34, and I would say right now for July, it's definitely gone up. Hopefully, it will continue to rise. I know with the COVID, some people are worried about being out in the public, but we are doing everything that we possibly can to protect people. So from the cleaning, Jason Tiller came over, showed us everything that we need to clean. So we do everything that we possibly can to keep everyone safe. Okay, on our fiscal stuff, all the budget stuff, if you look at this year in comparison to last year, we have brought in exactly 15% less in funding, which is not as bad as I figured it might be. And our expenses have decreased by 12%. So, not spending as much. Of course, like on the Aladdin, the food stuff, we're not buying as much food, or we weren't buying as much food. Okay, and the miscellaneous, I went down to Wichita and I met with 5 different directors in Sedgwick County and went through and I toured their building. Just kind of got some different ideals of what things that they do down there. And they're actually going to come down here and look through all of our stuff. So they're funded by the county too, so they're pretty much like us. They do different things, pickleball, different things like that. I mean, just it's good to network with other people. We did talk about COVID quite a bit. They hadn't even opened up yet when I was down there, so they had a lot of questions for me, just asking what we were going to do. So, and I think that they actually ended up delaying their time to open. And then moving on to our donation and grants. So in senior services, from April to June, we have $25,781.20 from April to June, just for senior services. And Meals on Wheels, we've received $15,673.26. That's all I got.
All right. Questions from commissioners, comments? We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you.
We'll move to item number 4.
County Administrator's update with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Good
Morning,
morning
Phil.
again. So the first item is just an update on the coronavirus funding process with our advisory committee. This has been occupying a lot of my time lately, trying to get $11 million out in the community. The committee did meet yesterday, and we met last Wednesday as well. The application did go live last Wednesday on the county website, and also got out a press release from the committee last Wednesday. So we have applications coming in, although as of yesterday we had the total of applications that we had in so far was less than half of the money that we have available. So just want to remind folks that the application deadline is this Friday. The committee is particularly interested in programs that benefit the community broadly, food programs, child care programs, supports for folks who've been vulnerable and affected by the COVID pandemic. And I appreciate Commissioner Shadwick's comments earlier when KDUB was here. There are a number of institutions like the universities that we are hoping are going to submit something, but just haven't seen it yet. So anxiously awaiting all of that. The process will be for the committee to meet a couple of times next week and go through what we receive, and then of course that will all be presented to your commission on the 11th. And if commissioners have any feedback for the committee as they make their decisions, please let me know and I'll be happy to pass that along. The second thing I wanted to mention is some more, well actually I think all of this is good news, but several things that are exciting here. In addition to the $11 million in coronavirus funding, we did get notification late last week that we did receive a funding award for the Community Development Block Grant coronavirus funds. The Commission may recall that this was an application that we had submitted back in May, and we were initially turned down because they cut off the awards one day sooner than we got our application in, but they did, the state did get another $7 million from the feds, and so $132,000 of that will be coming Saline County's way. There is a whole host of paperwork associated with. It's interesting that there's more paperwork for $132,000 than there is for $11 million. So, but that will be here next week for your commission to act on all that paperwork. Next item is now that we've come to a turning point, I won't say completed, but come to a turning point in our Expo Center project. We are picking back up with another joint project between Saline County and the City of Salina, and so we'll be having a joint meeting next Monday at 1 p.m. with the City Commission to talk about the emergency communication radio project. So that is trucking along. And then finally, just two other things to mention, again in the vein of good news. We received notification from the Property Valuation Division at the state that our appraiser's office met all their statistical compliance for this year, which, of course, you know, they always do, but got that confirmation again, so wanted to just congratulate the appraiser's office on all of that hard work. And finally, another neat opportunity that the pandemic has presented. So many things are moving online these days in terms of training, and with not having associated travel costs to take advantage of those, we're able to get a few more people to participate. So much of the ARC staff tomorrow and Thursday will be in our conference room attending a conference in Phoenix. So if you're looking for us, that's where we'll be. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a couple questions about the 11 million and the group. There are questions that are being asked of me, so I'm just kind of passing this along. But one would be, I do know that somebody applied for it, a local business, and I just casually asked, I said, well, I'm interested, what cost have you incurred because of this that you're trying to recover? And they said, well, we're just business is slow. So I'm assuming that the group looks at are there receipts that have to be shown? I mean, just because there's 11 million available and only half has been asked for, I'd hate to see somebody get that that's not worthy of it, frankly. So does the group look at that?
So, yeah, so one of the things that we'll be talking about on Monday is the criteria that the committee wants to use to review the applications. And so one of the we'll be going through sort of a scoring matrix kind of a thing, and talking about the benefit of each of the applications. However, I will say that private businesses are in a kind of a unique situation. Private businesses are eligible for funding for business disruption, which is kind of a distinction without a difference, I guess you would say. So the feds have said that local governments, state and local governments, cannot apply for revenue losses, cannot apply to replace lost revenues, but businesses can apply for what they're terming business disruption, and so that is essentially lost revenue.
Yeah, that's okay.
So yeah, that is just sort of a little quirk in the guidance from the feds.
My next question is, and I'm okay using their name because they approached me as like Salina downtown. So can Salina Downtown, could they or should they apply for this on behalf of their members, and then they decide where it goes? Or should the individual business from Salina Downtown come to this group? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and yes, actually, so yes, we would love an application from Salina Downtown or any other business group like that. What they would apply for is they would apply to the county for a lump sum that they could then use to disperse as individual grants to affected businesses. And that has been done in other communities, and the Fed guidance actually encourages that kind of thing. From our standpoint, the virtue of that is it's much easier to administer a $100,000 grant from our side to one entity that can then disperse $2,000 grants versus us having $52,000 grants. That's going to take up a lot of time for Nancy and folks up in our office just to track all that, because of course we have to then submit receipts for all of this to the state. So
Right, so then that entity, are they on the hook if they give a $2,000 to somebody and they don't spend it wisely? I mean, how is that group tracking that then?
yes, so then we would require with all of the entities in entering into an agreement similar to what we similar to what the cities and schools are doing, so that if there was things that were ineligible, they would reimburse us for those costs because we have to turn around and reimburse the state.
Correct, okay. Very helpful, thank you.
No, I appreciate the outreach from commissioners on this. This is it's a great opportunity for the community, but also a very compressed time frame.
My question is, because lost revenue is not reimbursable. However, business disruption, what's the difference between the two?
Again, Mr. Chairman, I use the phrase a distinction without a difference.
Right. Good thing we appointed a committee, because I don't want to be, those are tough ones, If you're doing $100,000 worth of business in a month and all of a sudden you're doing 50, does that mean you apply for the 50 to get it back? Or you get 25 because you've got costs that aren't there either? I don't understand that. So
there's very limited federal and state guidance on this, and they continue to roll out answers to questions, and the answers are sometimes as confusing as the questions. So.
Well, that's why we appointed some very smart people to that committee, and very intelligent, and we'll go from there.
I have one question, Phil. Can this monies be used for infrastructure that relates back to COVID? First, I'll give you an example. It might help. The senior services, with their uptick of Meals on Wheels deliveries, can they apply for money to put a turnaround in to expedite and help them with the delivery of Meals on Wheels?
Yes. You can make the argument that there's a relationship to the pandemic. However, remember, all the money has to be spent by December 30th. So you would have to get the money, get it approved, bid the project out, and get everything done and buttoned up by December 30th. So yeah, it can be, but they generally discourage capital projects just for that reason.
And it wouldn't be senior services that applies for the money, I would assume. They would send that over to that would be come under the umbrella of the county, Saline County, in their application, as where how that would work, I would assume.
Yeah, we've asked department heads if they could channel things through Deputy Administrator Hannah Stambaugh. I kind of want to remove myself from that a little bit because I'm part of the committee,
Sure.
and so having somebody else look at those, and so, yeah, that's kind of how we're handling that.
Good question.
All right. Let's move on to item number 5.
Commissioners' comments?
Anyone have anything? We'll move to item number 6. Announcements?
Announcements, and Commissioner Vidrickson, I have an announcement. With the election going on, today is the last day that we can get an application. We can accept applications to get a ballot in the mail to you. We are also advance voting in our office, 8 to 5 until Friday. We are also doing it Saturday from 9 to 4 and Monday 8 to noon. And then Tuesday, Election Day, you'll have to go to your polling place.
I see it's been a pretty busy place up there with the advanced voting, so.
Yes, it has.
All right, looks like we've got an executive session.
Before I make a motion, is there anything new here on the executive session? Or is it just a review of what they've asked for before?
There's a new communication. It shouldn't take long. I would think 10 minutes will be more than adequate.
Mr. Chairman, I move we recess into executive session under the employee-employer negotiations exception to the Kansas Open Meeting Act for 10 minutes and reconvene in this room at, don't have my glasses, 27?
Yeah.
10:27.
By that clock.
By that clock, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we move into executive session for employee negotiations. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We will move into executive session. All right, we're back from executive session, and I'll put us back into the regular session, and I will announce that there was no action taken. And at this time, I would call for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn today's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.